Hi, I'm Mary MacCarthy. I'm a data scientist and journalist. And for my capstone project, I have decided to combine my two areas of expertise in order to build a tool which will automatically read the news. I've called it robot reporting using machine learning to detect news trends and topics. So let's dive right in. I'll tell you about the tool I built, what I like to call my little robot or robots assistant, robotic assistant. And what it can do is read tens of thousands of news related tweets for you in just minutes and tell you what's in them. How does it work? Well, you type in a news keyword, the robot finds all of the recent tweets that contain that keyword, reads the tweets, and then sorts them out into the 5 or 6 main topics according to the content of the tweets. Now, why is this useful? Well, for a number of reasons. Any major topic, news related or otherwise, is going to be mentioned in tens of thousands of tweets, if not more, often up to 500,000 tweets. Now, for a human being, it's impossible to get a sense of what's in all of those tweets in the aggregate. However, a robot with its amazing power to do things quickly can do that. Now let's take a peek inside and see how the technology actually works. So what happens is the robot collects the data set of tweets, doing that keyword search. The technology used there is Twerk and then Python and Pandas to get those tweets organized into a usable format. The next thing that we have is before the robot can actually read the tweets, the text or the language has to be processed. That includes things like labeling parts of speech, reducing words to their roots, converting words to numbers because computers or robots aren't actually reading, they're calculating numbers. The technology used for that is NLTK, spaCy, and scikit-learn. Once the text is processed, the next step is the robot does what we call topic modeling, detecting the main topics within the tweets and sorting them out according to those. The topic modeling technique that I used is called latent Dirichlet allocation. Finally, the output that the robot gives me is a list of what the robot has determined are the main topics within all of those tweets. So let's put this to work. Let's look at an example of what we can do with this. So for example, last week, I was very interested, like many of us were, in the controversy surrounding Donald Trump's Twitter account, which was very much in the news. So I decided to do a search with my robot, a keyword search, not just about Donald Trump's Twitter account, but I said, let's do something more specific. Let's look at the tweets sent directed to one person, the Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, at Jack is his handle, because a lot of people I'd seen in the Twitter traffic had been writing to him, asking him, requesting him either to shut down Donald Trump's Twitter account, not to do so. So I said, let's take a close look at those. So what the robot did, once I typed in that search, it found 30,000 tweets directed to at Jack. Those were over a 7-day period. So some of them in the lead up to the big controversy last week and some of them in the 2 to 3 days following that controversy. The robot then sorted those tweets into what it found to be 5 main topics within the tweets. Now, what were the results? As expected, the majority of tweets going to @Jack were indeed about Donald Trump's Twitter account. No surprise there. In fact, 3 out of 5 of the main topics were about that. Here's a sampling of just some of those tweets writing to @Jack. @Jack, dude, seriously, Trump, he doesn't deserve to be on Twitter now. @Jack, Mr. Dorsey, it's time right now. Here you see ones calling on Jack Dorsey to shut down Donald Trump. We see a lot from the other perspective in there as well. So interesting, but at this point, what the robot has taught me isn't really anything I couldn't have found out on my own. I knew that there were a lot of messages of this nature going to Jack Dorsey last week. Where it gets really interesting is what were the other 2 topics that the robot is pointing to that says a lot of people are writing to @Jack about these other 2 topics? Well, both of those came as a huge surprise to me. The first one, people are writing to @Jack about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, I'm someone who follows technology news avidly, including even the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. I had no idea that Jack Dorsey, in fact, is a huge player within the Bitcoin space and a huge advocate for it. In fact, to the point that his own Twitter profile, I completely overlooked this, doesn't even mention that he's the CEO of Twitter. It just points out that he's a fan of Bitcoin. So it turns out that even when we have all this focus on Donald Trump's Twitter account, that's the kind of the thing that most of us are talking about, there's still a huge amount of Twitter traffic going to @Jack about Bitcoin. Finally, the second topic Completely unrelated, also came as a huge surprise to me, was tweets going to @Jack from Nigerian Twitter users, requests for verification of two Nigerian personalities, unrelated to each other. One of them a television star, Erica Luwiden, and the other a political leader, Mazi Nandi Kanu. People I had never heard of, and yet they have commanded this huge amount of Twitter traffic with messages specifically to Jack Dorsey, their followers, their fans, asking for them to get that coveted blue check of Twitter verification, which, as we know, can really lend a person or a group a lot of credibility. So again, complete surprise to me that this is what we would find in the Twitter traffic to Jack Dorsey last week. So you could say, well, this is interesting, but is it just anecdotal, really? What can we do with this? I'll tell you, no, it's more than anecdotal. What the robot has found by reading these tweets for me, it has allowed me to see beyond the headlines, seeing that the messages going to the Twitter CEO aren't limited, even during a major news week about Donald Trump, they aren't limited to talking just about that. The messages about Bitcoin to Jack Dorsey, that really suggests just how important this sector is to Jack Dorsey. I think it points to possible future trends. I think we'll be hearing a lot more in the coming years about Jack Dorsey and his actions within the Bitcoin space. And finally, and I think more importantly, what I've learned from seeing all the Twitter traffic around the Nigerian personalities, it's really a timely reminder of the power of Twitter beyond our shores. Twitter, like other social media platforms and tech companies, has huge influence. In this case, by giving that Twitter verified status, the blue check or not, Twitter becomes the potential arbiter of fortunes of individuals, groups, even of democracy when you're talking about political leaders and political movements. So it's worth for all of us, whether it's journalists, people in tech, or any other sort of analyst, it's worth stopping and pondering that and thinking about from an intellectual and ethical point of view, the role that people like, that institutions like Twitter, but also individuals like Jack Dorsey, this massive power that they have, far beyond what we usually think about here just in the United States, but even on an international level. For more insights on this and on other news topics that I've been writing about with the help of the insights of my robot reporter, you can check out my blog. It's called Robot Reporting. You've got the information here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you have a specific news topic you'd like me to dig into with my robot, please ask me to do that, and I'd be happy to publish a blog post on it. And I'll also go into more detail about the technology that I've been using to power this robot, and it's helping me to read the news. Thank you so much.